Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here. So I just wanted to do a quick constellation comparison and refinement guide as well as the banner review. Yeah, I know I'm late on this, but I just want to quickly do it so that it's covered right around Nahida's release time. But before that, let me just quickly answer some of the questions I saw in the previous video so that it's faster this way. Okay, so I see people commenting that my figures may not be realistic because I have C4 Cole plus R1 allergy. But remember that I am using EM damage crit circlet here. So if you don't have C4 Cole plus R allergy, you will need to use EM goblet. I already stated this yesterday and I will just repeat it here today for the folks who somehow missed it. Okay, now next, let's talk about the EM buff from her Q. That's not counting into her passive for Trikarma damage bonus and CR. This is not a confirmed thing, this is my assumption. Okay, assumed. And why do I assume so? Because you guys know, if you have been watching my videos, you know that I always take the more conservative approach. So that in the event that this does work, then it's even better for Nahida. Better for the figures. But if it doesn't, then at least my figures are accurate. You know what I mean? It's always better for the figures to be lower than actual in the ambiguous situation. At least ambiguous to me. I don't know whether this has been confirmed in beta yet. Okay? But I would think that it's weird if it works actually, because previously they already mentioned that in the patch when they make dynamic, EM values dynamic, they also implemented a system where if it's a percentage, if you have an EM of a percentage working to percentage of a EM will not work for giving EM to another thing that's doing a percentage of it, which is like the Sucrose EM and the Kazuha's damage buff. So that is the basis for my assumption. I mean, if it works, then of course it's great, right? It's good for all of us. But if it doesn't, then yeah, this is my figures. Okay. Okay. One more quick thing. Yes. Wandering Even Star. Initially, I wrote 100 attack and 200 attack, right? I don't know why. Somehow in my mind it changed to 150 and 300 when I was doing the video. Just overextended at the point in time with how rushed this weapon comparison was. So I've done the math, I double checked the math. So I have about 89 attack at R1, 178 attack at R5. This is including the EM from her Q buff, which works for this because this is a weapon effect. It's not buffing something else. Okay? It's a bit different. That's my expectation. Anyway, this is weapon. So yep, 89 attack at R1, 178 attack at R5, which is still pretty substantial, especially at R5. 178 attack is pretty nice. It's like more than 20% attack, depending on what weapon you're using. Alright, so yeah, I think I covered the 3 items that I wanted to talk about when I saw some of the comments. I was looking through quickly on the comments. So you have this thing here. You don't have C4 Cole plus R allergy, UCM goblet. If you sorry, not if, for the Nahida EM buff from Q not working for Trikarma and the damage bonus and CR, this is a assumption, and I'm assuming so because I always take a more conservative approach, and also based on the how Sucrose EM works for Kazuha damage buff, or not working for the Kazuha's damage buff. And lastly, the Wandering Even Star, the attack buff should be this value. Okay? Yeah, my apologies for changing it, but I was actually correct initially. Close, right? 100 and 200. As opposed to 150 and 300. Alright, so let's go on to do the banner review now. Okay, and see, you want to know how many spreadsheets have I done? Yep. Okay, anyway, let's go back to the banner review. Okay, her banner is not great. Let's be honest, her banner is not great. Only banner is good here, but most people will have I don't know, 14, 20 banner, but banner being kept at C5 now. Noel is decent but not top tier. Razor as well, but Razor is pretty fun, and it's been a long time since Razor was the 4-star banner. So if you have been wanting to get Razor, then this is a good banner for you, especially Razor cons if you want to. But generally speaking, the 4-star characters on her banner aren't exactly great. Like if you get someone like Cookie, it'll be great, right? For Hyper Bloom together with her. But yeah, I mean, no whole universe knows that most people wants Nahida. Most people will pull for Nahida, so they can afford to put 4-star characters that are in a sense less attractive to most folks. Okay, so other than the Nahida banner, we have the Yoimiya rerun. So if you like Yoimiya, go for her. I know a lot of people trash her, but she's actually a pretty decent DPS, which is fun. The spamming part is very fun. Okay, and let's talk about the weapon banner. Tyrant Pulse is not too bad. I mean, it's good for, it's obviously BIS for Yoimiya, it's also good for Childe. 1000 Floating Dreams, unfortunately, if you saw my weapon comparison, the value of 1000 Floating Dreams really depend on what's your EM, what are the amount of sources of EM that you can get, and on which specific comp. It varies depending on that. Like the more EM you have, the lesser value 1000 Floating Dreams have, essentially. Okay. And for the 4-star weapons, Rust pretty much always comes with Thundering Pulse as the constellation price. You have Wisdom here, you have Flute, Bonus Lance, and Sacrificial Greatsword. So these 3 weapons are nice. Rust is not bad as well. DPS wise, Flute it's not that great. So weapon banner isn't like a super fantastic weapon banner. Let's be honest, it's not a fantastic weapon banner. Okay. So let's look at the actual constellation values and refinement values to decide on the pool value. So let me move the screen a little. Wait, let me go all the way. Where's my? All right. Okay, let me move this. And on. Okay. Sorry for the little slight skip. I had to try to remove and make the presentation look better. So these are the figures that I've shared previously. This is on the DPS portion. So I guess I've not shared it before. This is actually DPS. Yeah, ignore the damage part. This is DPS. Okay. And now you see how everything is rushed, right? Okay, but let me just quickly change this. All right. Damage DPS. So it applies throughout. Now, more importantly here is the percentage figures. This is the Nahida Nilou comp. Okay, Nahida Nilou comp. So it's about 71% at C0, C6. C6 is actually very pathetic in the Nahida Nilou comp. It's only 11%. C2 is the best. Okay, and refinement is about 18%. I'm only looking at the 4 GT EM damage CD combination. Okay. And finally, you have the Nahida Agra spread. This is the DPS figure, and this is the percentage. So you have C2, you have C0, C6, and C6 here is 30%. And refinement is this value. Now let me give you guys in terms of the recommendation values. Okay, the cost pool benefit analysis. So this is how I've been doing my Constellation and Refinement comparison in terms of recommending to people what to do. Wait, let me remove this. Okay, so C1, unfortunately, in a double Dendro, double Electrocom, is 0% value. It's 0% value. C2 is 18%. Because if you remember how her C2 works, basically this is, to be exact, this is 17.6%. Her C2 is very straightforward formula wise. Now C3 is not high, obviously. C4 also is not high because remember, we've already gotten most of the EM that we want. Now the lesser EM that you have, the better the C4. It's always like this. Just like how Wandering Even Star works. Now C5 is about only 8%, and C6 gives you 30%. Now 30% looks good, right? But it's not like Yelan where Yelan is like 40 or 50%, if I didn't remember wrongly. So C6 is, I mean, it's nice, but it's not great because if you look at this, right, C0, C6, 81%. Yep, 81%. So not that great. It's not 100+%, but obviously it's better than in the Nahida Nilou. because this here is based on the 4GD EM damage circlet, crit circlet with crit slash EM subset in the aircraft spread comp. Again, if you don't have allergy or Cephocole, change your damage here to EM goblet. Okay? If you need more EM, you can't get the 1k EM, change the damage goblet to EM goblet. Simple as that. R1 to R5 dreams is not that great. It's only 15 to 16%. Mainly 16%, so it's really not that great. And as for R5 wandering even star to R1, this is the percentage figure. So again, it's also not a big jump. It's less than a typical tier. It's more like 0.75x tier. And the figure, but just to note, the figures here have not included attack team buffs from R5 Wandering Even Star and also the 40 EM team buff from R1 Dreams. Basically, all the team buffs are not included, at least for the weapon, the 4-star weapon to the 5-star weapon. As for these figures here, I'm not going to go through them quickly. You can pause and look through them, but basically, they are just estimates and extrapolation. It's down to luck unless, in the end, it's still down to luck unless you are doing 1000 plus boosts, then the average will be more accurate. But it provides a basis of reference for you to know what the costs are like or is like. Okay, now let me quickly go through C1 versus R1. Nahida C1 is terrible if not utilized in Rainbow Comp. Yeah, sorry, I was doing this text at 4 AM. That's why there's so many edits. I haven't had a chance to check through them. Okay, so I will always choose R1 over C1 because C1 does nothing, right? Unless it's in the Rainbow Comp. But her R1 is also not great, especially if you have sufficient sources of EM like Allergy, Dendro Resonance, C4 etc. And also other 5-star weapons like Lost Prayers or Kaguras, because I've already gone through that in the weapon comparison video. If you have those weapons, and along with this amount of EM, then you know her R1 is not going to give you a high value. Lost Prayers or Kaguras will be better in that kind of scenario. So if you have these, right, I'll say trying to eventually get C2 will be better, even if her C1 doesn't do anything for you right now. Alright? Let's talk about C2 versus R1. For C1 to C2 versus R1, C2 provides better value. It's 18% versus 14%, right? 18% versus 14%. Again, if you have sufficient sources of EM and other 5-star weapons like Lost Prayers or Kaguras, C2 is even more of a no-brainer, right? Because it already gives you a higher value, especially if you somehow already gotten C1. And another thing is the value of C2 is higher in the Nahida Nilou comp. If you look only at Nahida, then it's about 20%. The 30+% previously also includes Nilou C2. Let me be clear. The previous 30+% figure that I was showing initially also includes C2 Nilou. That's why I put it as 20% here, because it's very straightforward. If you know how damage formula works, Nahida C2 definitely adds 20% to Nilou to the overall damage in terms of Nahida Nilou. But C0 C2 does cost a lot more than R1. You can see here, right? If it's like an optimistic lucky case 130, worst case 300, average 215. As opposed to R1 key, optimistic is 55, worst case is 195, which is still lower than 300. Average is 125, which is still lower than 215. Okay? So do bear this in mind. It's a risk that you have to decide to take. But I think most people are more adverse to weapon banner than character. So I guess people will be more willing to take the risk on the character banner. Yeah. Alright, now let's talk about C6. C6 for Nahida is honestly rather disappointing. On paper, it seems similar to Yelan C6, but the damage is too low in comparison. My Yelan C6 does like 5x 85k, which is about 405k just from the 5 hits from the C6 itself. I'm not counting her Q procs, etc. Once you include those, then yeah, that's the reason why Mono Hydro can take down bosses in one C6 combo. But Nahida, even with spreads, does approximately 331k just from her 6 C6 hits. So it's not even matching Yelan C6. It's 75% of Yelan C6 effect. And this is not account level. Though technically speaking, to be fair, Nahida C6 does have a bigger AoE range in theory. But Mono Hydro has Kazuha to pull. So it's also not an issue. Yeah, so and don't underestimate the C6 AoE. To be exact, don't underestimate her breakthrough buff AoE. It's actually pretty decent. Okay. So yeah, I'm kinda disappointed that Nahida's C6 is not at least matching Yelan C6. And this is the reason why her C6 is only 30% individually. Which honestly isn't too bad, but it's not as great as Yelan C6 or Cyno C6 or even Yae C6. Yae C6 is 43%. Cyno is also around that range. And more importantly, because of the reduced value from her C1 and also her C6 not being that high, and her C4 will have lower value if enough EM as well. So in that type of scenario, her C0 to C6 is actually only 81%, which ranges from average to above average, but definitely not great. And in Nahida Nilou, when her C6 has a lower impact due to all the bountiful costs, it's even worse, it's about 63%. So I will only recommend C6 if you really, really like her, or you intend to play Nahida mainly in aggro spread, where C6 is best utilized. I guess Hyper Bloom is fine as well, because Hyper Bloom you should be able to at least do some spreads as well. So Hyper Bloom might work too. But yeah, I don't want to comment on Hyper Bloom since I have not done the deep dive for the comp. But I personally may not go for C6 unless I really like how she turns out in the aggro spread comp, and maybe then I will go for C6. But for now, I'll probably go for C1. Sorry, C2. So let me just do some final notes. Nahida C2 is a good starting point for spenders. C0 is good enough for F2P. And value-oriented wheels should only go for C6 if she's mainly going to be played in aggro spread. Okay? Or any scenario, any comp that she will actually be doing spreads. Now, the main advantage of a signature weapon is in terms of helping you reach 800 to 1000 EM, which diminishes in value the more EM you have from other sources. Technically speaking, the best is to hit. Also, just to clarify, the best is to hit 1000 EM, obviously. It also doesn't have a significant advantage over other weapons, so it's hard to justify putting on weapon banner, which can be a nightmare sometimes. I just got hit with the nightmare, by the way, for R5 key. My R5 key was so bad, I didn't even want to do a video for it. I was so terrible. Like, basically, we had to get fate points all the way. The 2 fate points all the way. Now, her signature weapon, to be honest, I think it's really more for flexibility. In case you lose sources of EM team buffs due to comp restrictions, for example, the moment you don't have a Dendro character, a second Dendro character, you will lose a lot of EM team buff. Because you lose the Dendro resonance, you lose the EM team buff from the Dendro character itself, like DMC, Cole, Tighnari, etc. Actually, that's the only other 3 Dendro characters right now. And obviously, you lose allergy as well, right? If you don't use Cole. So that's why I say her signature weapon is really more for flexibility. Oh, and another example would be if you want to optimize artifacts to drop your 4 GD. For example, you have better rogue artifacts from 2 GD to DM. But the difference between 2 GD, 2 DM, and 4 GD is that you lose 100 EM and gain 50% high Dendro damage bonus, right? So that 100 EM drop is a EM loss, EM team buff loss, or sorry, not EM team, EM stat loss, which then her signature weapon fills in. So that's why I keep saying her signature weapon is really more for flexibility and really for giving you EM when you don't have enough. Think of it that way. Like if you have a R5 key, which gives you a lot of EM, that really does give you 300 EM. Not like the Wandering even started and made mistake that I made at R5 with a fully built Nilou. If you follow my guide, so that will help a lot. But in a 1D3H scenario, if you want like hydro triggers, right, you're gonna need more EM, unfortunately, because there's no second Dendro character. So her signature weapon value really is depending on what comp you're gonna use her for and how much EM sources that you have. Alright? Okay, so with that brings me to the end of the Nahida video series, and at least in terms of the math. Since she's released already, I haven't had a chance to try it out because I can't stream right now. I can only stream after my baby is napping. I can do this video now in the short window before cooking for cooking his porridge. Basically, yeah, time is tight. Alright, so I'll do more of the actual Nahida testing since Nahida will be out or is already out. Alright, at the point of me recording this video. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope the video is helpful to you guys. The content is helpful to you guys. If you like the content, remember like video and click subscribe for more. Bye.